Hello everyone, I'm Julie Bryant Fisher. I'm the Chief Experience Officer with TAG. And this is another edition of TAG TV, TAG Radio. Thanks for joining us. I am joined today by Charles Freund. He is the EVP of Corporate Strategy for FLEETCOR. It's really great to have you here today.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. You guys are in the middle of getting used to a brand spanking new exciting office in Buckhead. And you also happen to be in one of the most exciting technology spaces, FinTech. So we have a lot to talk about today. I can't wait to hear how you're looking at the horizon and how things are going for FLEETCOR. But let's start with Atlanta. So why Atlanta in terms of a location for FLEETCOR, and what can you say about how hot it is right now in Atlanta in the FinTech space?
Well, Julie, we've been in the metro Atlanta area for almost 20 years now, starting up in Peachtree Corners.
Yeah.
We've recently relocated to the Buckhead area,
Excellent.
Which is the heart of FinTech here in Atlanta. FLEETCOR is a growing business. We grow about 20% a year. So every 4 to 5 years, our business has doubled. So we're constantly adding new professionals to our executive ranks and our professional ranks. And so we needed to expand. So we came into Buckhead and we kept our Peachtree Corners location. Gwinnett County's been quite good to us.
That's good.
And so we kept a number of people there as well. Most of our corporate functions run out of the corporate headquarters here in Buckhead. Atlanta is known as Transaction Alley.
It is.
Right? So 70% of all payment card transactions go through a company based here.
Right.
And it's been that way for some time, actually. So, back in the early 1900s, the Federal Reserve kind of started doing wire transfers here. And that laid the foundation for FinTech in the area. And so as more companies come in, they attract talent. It becomes like a breeder reactor.
It does.
Right? So you have talent, I want that talent, I come in, and we swap a fair amount, I'd say.
Yeah.
A difference for, FLEETCOR in the FinTech space is that, we're established, $2.5 billion revenue company.
Wow.
$27 billion market cap. We are publicly traded, obviously.
Right.
And we're an S&P 500 company. Not everyone knows that.
It's
And
exciting.
so we have a lot of the stability that you might look for. But we also are pretty innovative, pretty aggressive, and totally focused in the business-to-business payments space.
Okay. That's the niche.
It is.
Excellent.
And so a differentiator, the way we like to think about it is lots of companies help businesses take payments.
Yes.
In terms of acceptance, of
Right.
credit cards or other methods. We help companies make payments.
Okay.
So if you have to pay for the lights in this studio, or you have to pay for our professional, videographer here, we help you make those payments.
So in speaking about how FLEETCOR differentiates itself, let's talk a little bit more about payments and how you serve that niche and what that looks sort of end to end.
Sure. So FLEETCOR is a global business payments company, right? So we're helping people make payments. And it comes in kind of two flavors. So think of payments that are made by a central AP department, right? There are invoices that come into a company, and those invoices get reviewed, get approved, and then the AP clerks will make those payments. That's one avenue or one type of payment that we handle. The other types of payments are made by employees out and about in the field. Right? So I may be traveling for business and need to stay at a hotel, buy a meal, whatever it may be, buy supplies for a job that I'm working on. Those aren't controlled centrally. So they have to be controlled through a different mechanism. And so we provide those types of solutions, both centralized AP solutions where you're paying a vendor or employee-based out in the field type solutions.
So let's tick off some of the things that have been happening to FLEETCOR lately. And just as you've given us an overview, I'll add too that I understand you all are, in addition to fuel, also in the payables, lodging, and toll sectors, right? All of those. And that you acquired Invoice Pay, a leader in AP automation, earlier in the year. So tell us a little bit about how you all got into the payables business and what this acquisition will mean to you and your customers.
Sure. So as I mentioned before, we're always in business-to-business payments. And anytime we look at an acquisition, that's what we focus on. Are they in B2B? And then there are other attributes we look for. In the payables space in particular, we entered it in 2014 with our acquisition of Comdata.
Okay.
The company's biggest deal was a $3.5 billion transaction. Wow. And they had a very large over-the-road fuel card business and a fairly small but rapidly growing corporate payments unit. And what that corporate payments unit does is it issues virtual cards. Virtual cards basically replace checks. Instead of writing a check, you send a virtual card payment, a single-use MasterCard number for the exact amount. And it eliminates things like check fraud or helps with reconciliation, because when we send the payment, we also send all of the remittance data with it.
Oh,
So it
wow.
makes reconciliation quite easy.
So
for the
much
company.
easier.
Indeed.
That's a big deal. And I think that speaks to a trend in this space too. I think we'll get into this in a little while, but this is one of those areas that FLEETCOR has, stepped right into that is really serving customers and changing the way that companies are able to do business.
Absolutely. The electronification of payments is making a huge difference.
Let's take a step back for a second. How long has that trend been in the works? And how soon did FLEETCOR sort of get an idea that this was going to be a big deal for customers and dive in there? Would you say you were an early adopter or somebody who sort of captured that piece and picked it up for your customers intentionally?
Consumer payments are always in front of business payments.
Right.
So think of how many consumers use credit cards and such. Of course, we still write checks, but the Venmos of the world and such are taking over, right? And so B2B payments are still catching up.
I see.
And so still more than 50% of all business-to-business payments in the United States are made by check or, God forbid, cash.
You're right. You and I can exchange. If I bought a concert ticket from you and needed to pay you back like the famous commercial that's airing now, I can do that in a matter of seconds. But as a business, I cannot do that. It still has to go through a lot of the processes and all that kind of thing internally. You all are changing that for customers.
Well, we're certainly trying.
That's great.
Invoice Pay, our new acquisition, was on the front end of that. And so they had developed integration into various ERP systems whereby once you decide that the payment is approved and all the information is set, you press a button and you let it go.
Nice.
And it didn't matter what type of modality we'd be paying with, whether it's a virtual card, a wire, or even a check still, if that's what the merchant wants to receive. So our software manages all that, and we run all the back-end processes and then provide all the reconciliation back to the company to ensure that those payments have been made.
So as it turns out, FLEETCOR has long been in the digital payments arena, exploring how digital payments and that technology can help customers and businesses be more efficient. You have a long track record in this area.
Absolutely. The digital modality provides all the data that you need for controls, reporting, tracking of payments, things of that nature. And so the data stream that would be lacking, say with a paper check or cash payments, would basically is why our payment solutions are better than the alternatives.
Hard to not want to go to FLEETCOR for your business then, right? You also made an acquisition this year in the lodging space with Travelliance. So I was interested in the lodging systems. Like, why would you have gone into lodging, and what are sort of the things you're able to do for customers in that space that are different now? What are the things you're transforming as you have been with Invoice Pay?
So when we started in the lodging space, we had been a fuel card provider up until that point. And in fuel cards, you're providing a payment mechanism for a very specific purpose to people, employees, out in the field. The lodging card does the exact same thing. So on a fuel card, you can only buy fuel.
Right.
Only at the places I tell you can go to.
Right.
The lodging card, it's exactly the same. You can only stay at certain hotels, ones that I've approved. So think of like an 18-wheeler fleet, an over-the-road trucking company. When their drivers are driving around the country, it's important that the hotel has 18-wheeler parking available. And if they don't, and you pull up, you're out of luck. And so we would restrict the network for that client and provide all the controls, again, to ensure you only buy the room, not room service or in-room movies or whatever else might be available.
Which for a fleet is a big deal. They've got thousands of drivers on the road, thousands of hotel stays at night. They may have to pull over for weather-related conditions, anything that would necessitate having that convenience of that card.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's a transformation.
I agree.
That's
great. And now with our acquisition of Travelliance, we've increased our room night volume approximately 50%. And have entered into a new vertical that we otherwise didn't serve. It's the airlines. And so think of airlines with crews traveling all over the world. When they're done with their hours of service, and a pilot can't fly 24/7, they need to sleep, as do the flight attendants. We need to put them in appropriate accommodations. Likewise, when a plane or a flight is canceled, and all of those travelers need a place to stay overnight, we accommodate them in our network. And so we provide both of those services to the airlines. And with our massive scale, the volume of nights that we're buying, we can we can acquire the rooms at a very economical cost. And we pass that on to the companies.
Nice. So that works out. And then also there's a piece to this that plays again to those trends. This is something I know that people are always interested in hearing about, is someone like you who can tell us what you're seeing on the horizon. You've talked about a couple of really exciting examples for how FLEETCOR is transforming payments for companies and how it's opening the door for them to be able to do a lot of more convenient things with their fleets, take care of their own much better and much more efficiently, and gain cost savings, I'm sure, from those efforts. That's a transformation in a particular sector of the fintech space right now. What are you seeing, just as an EVP, on the horizon that will literally change the way we were either making payments or just experiencing things as a consumer or a customer? What are we seeing out there?
There's a couple things. So first, in the fintech industry, what we're seeing a lot of is companies want a single vendor.
Okay.
And so in the past, it might be, I have a vendor for my virtual cards, I use my bank for my checks, I may use someone else for a different modality.
Sure.
And what we're seeing is actual, what we call co-opetition. So competitors actually partnering up to deliver a full suite of services to the marketplace, because the market is so large that we almost never run into each other anyway. So let's help one another go attack the market and transform payments from paper to electronic. In conjunction with that, I think we're also going to eventually see more consolidation.
Okay.
Because lots of small
sure.
fintech players bring specialty, capabilities and technology. We'll see them acquired over time.
That makes sense. As a customer, just you and I out on the street making purchases or going to get our gas and things like that, what are you seeing that will change for us? On the horizon, even 5-10 years down the road, are the ways that we make payments today going to literally transform, somewhat transform? How will things be different? Can you tell?
On the consumer side, it's a little more challenging because we are B2B focused.
Yeah.
But what I would tell you on the business side is, as big data and AI become more and more prevalent, people will become more comfortable with the automation of payments.
Sure.
So as you set up various business rules and processes, and you have algorithms to determine, is this an appropriate payment? Should I let this one go through? You can start to eliminate some of the more manual approval processes. That's going to reduce the amount of workflow. It's going to speed up payment cycles. So all of that automation will come about in time.
Yeah.
We're in the early stages yet. There's a lot of market to go get. I'm super excited to go get it.
There is a lot of market to go get. We've talked about the horizon. We've talked something about payments as well. Are there other ways that you think you all as FLEETCOR can bring efficiencies to your customers long term? What are some of the things you're excited about doing in the next 5 to 10 or even the next year for the folks that you serve?
So we have been on a strategy for the last, call it 2 to 3 years. We call it Beyond.
I like it.
And for all of our product groups, we challenge those leaders to think of what other services could they offer their existing customers beyond what they currently do. So an example would be in our toll business in Brazil, where we have 5 million tag holders. They've been using our tags to pay for tolls on highways.
Yeah.
Well, what else could you use that tag for? So we launched a partnership with McDonald's.
Oh, wow.
And so now when you pull into the drive-through and place your order, when you come up to the window and they hand you your order or you go to pay, you say, I'm paying with Sem Parar. And they say, okay. And then they hand you your food and you go. There's no exchange of money, there's no credit card, there's nothing. You just let them know, I'm paying with Sem Parar. And then you're off. So things like that, which again is an incredible customer experience, but it creates more utility for the product. We have a similar kind of a situation in our Beyond Fuel strategy here in the United States, where we open up a fuel card to buy other products specifically for the company's needs. So an example would be a construction company that might want to offer its drivers the ability to buy at big boxes like Home Depot or Lowe's.
Right.
We can open up specific merchant codes for those purchases so they can buy the paint or the nails they need to finish the job versus drive back to the office,
Right.
get a check, now go out, or whatever it might be.
That's going to help companies grow, presumably, right? Is there any measure that you offer your customers in terms of how fast they can grow because of these efficiencies, or any general observations about what this means to businesses when you improve these types of efficiencies for them in payments?
In many cases, our payment products start with controls. And so a lot of the payment modalities that people use, whether it's general purpose credit cards or cash or checks, don't have the controls or reporting that our products provide. So we will often see 10 to 15% reduction in spending by reducing unauthorized purchases. You can't eliminate them, but you can reduce them for sure. And so that's the starting point. Then from there, people can use our data and mine into it to create more efficiencies in their operations. Things, understanding where people are at various points in the day, so you can better plan jobs and such, things of that nature, because all of the information is real time.
Yeah, and it's amazing to think about how that will create, again, those efficiencies for customers and transform the way people can do business simply through FinTech. So we're thrilled that FLEETCOR is a member of TAG and a treasured partner, and thank you for that. We love to work with companies in the space, and particularly FinTech, which is so exciting right now. There's so many things going on in that space. We always love to take a chance, take the opportunity to ask what TAG means to you and sort of how you value the partnership and how it's working for you.
People refer to FLEETCOR often as the biggest company you've never heard of, or one of the more successful payments companies you've never heard of. And we want to change that. But we're not a consumer brand product offer, right? So we're in business-to-business payments. We don't spend a lot on advertising and things of that nature. FLEETCOR itself isn't used as a go-to-market brand. We operate on product brands or network brands, and that's what we market to customers or use with our merchants. And so FLEETCOR doesn't get a lot of airtime. And so the opportunity to work with TAG was tremendous for us to get our voice out into the Atlanta community and connect with other FinTech and technology professionals, the kind of talent that we want to attract or folks we want to partner with. We didn't have an avenue before we joined TAG, and so we're super excited about the possibilities.
Excellent. We're always so happy to hear that. That's the way it's supposed to work, right? Well, we always like to have a little bit of fun here at the end and talk a little bit about you and introduce you to the audience in a little more informal way. So I understand you're from New Jersey, but you're also a foodie. And of course, as we've discussed, Atlanta is quite a foodie town. So always nice to kind of get audience recommendations for the restaurants that you like. What would you say is your favorite spot to hang out in Atlanta and get a good meal?
Currently, my favorite spot is St. Cecilia.
It's a good one.
Located in Buckhead. Great Italian food, a really eclectic wine list. Wonderful little bar scene. They have a great brunch, which my daughter enjoys on the weekends.
Nice.
And so that I'd say is probably my favorite at the moment.
And we talked about another one that I discovered over the summer, Lazy Betty. A really great experience, yeah?
Fantastic.
We can't help but recommend that one.
It's so surprising and inventive. It's really a unique experience.
We could go on all day about food, I'm sure. Well, Charles, it has been such a pleasure to get a chance to speak with you today and get to learn more about what FLEETCOR is doing. And we are, as always, very grateful for the partnership that you will have with TAG. So thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks.
I enjoyed it. Thanks.